How do you make something memorable? As a science communicator, that's my job, to take science, to make it interesting and have it be memorable. And I'd like to show you some of the ways that I do that. What I'll do today is tell you about 4 different chemical elements and the colour associations that I have with each one of them. I'm going to explain them in slightly different ways and you can decide which one you think is most memorable. The first element I'd like to tell you about is magnesium, and the colour I think of when I think of magnesium is white. Okay, that might not be a colour, it's a shade, but just humour me on this. I think of white when I think of magnesium because when you burn it, it produces a bright white flame. So element number 1, colour number 1, magnesium and white. The second element I'd like to tell you about is strontium. Strontium is the only element named after a place in the United Kingdom. It's named after a little village on the west of Scotland called Strontian. And the colour I think of when I think of strontium is red, because if you burn a strontium salt, you produce a vivid red flame. Like in a distress flare. If you've ever seen a distress flare in a James Bond film or Tomb Raider or Jurassic Park with that red-orange glow, that's produced by a strontium fire. So the second element is strontium and the second colour is red. Third element now, and I've got some here. Third element I'd like to talk about is aluminium. It's abundant, it's lightweight, it's cheap, but that wasn't always the case. Aluminium used to be one of the precious metals. There was gold, silver, platinum and aluminium. It was so expensive before the 1900s because it was difficult to obtain. Although there's a lot of aluminium in the Earth's crust, it's not readily accessible. We can't dig up a nugget of aluminium. Instead, we find it locked away in minerals like this. This is a gibbsite mineral, and it gives us our third colour as well, blue. When I think of aluminium, I think of a blue gibbsite mineral. Nowadays, we can easily melt this down, apply an electric current and separate out the aluminium. But until the 1900s, that was impossible to do. So there's our third colour and third element, blue and aluminium. The fourth element I'd like to tell you about is uranium. And when I think of uranium, I think of green. And I've got some uranium oxide here. Uranium oxide produces a green glass. Although this isn't the green I think of when I think of uranium. When I think of uranium, I think of radioactive green. The kind of green like the rod that goes down the back of Homer Simpson's jacket at the start of The Simpsons. Not glass green. But uranium oxide can look another colour of green. We just need to look at it in a slightly different way. If instead of using normal light, we move to ultraviolet light, it will start to glow. And uranium oxide fluoresces. It takes high energy light and instead emits it as a lower energy light that we're able to see. So when I think of uranium, I think of radioactive glowing green, like a uranium oxide glass that would sit on someone's windowsill, catch the sunlight and emit a green glow. And that gives us our fourth element and our fourth colour, uranium and green. So let's recap on those. We've got magnesium and white, we've got strontium and red, we've got aluminium and blue, uranium and green. Which one do you think is the most memorable? Leave a comment below. Tell me which story you liked, which one you didn't. While I rewind and tell you how I explained them. The first one, magnesium, I told you. I gave you a fact. I told you that I think of magnesium and white because it burns with a white flame. Fine. The second one, I also told you about it. I told you about strontium, but I started to add a little bit more to it. I mentioned where it came from. I also tried to form a visual picture. I mimed the distress flare going off. I encouraged you to think of James Bond, Tomb Raider, Jurassic Park, trying to call back memories that you could associate with the words that I was saying. When it got to the third element, I brought in something visual to show you. I didn't need to show you aluminium. Trust me, you've seen some before. But having a visual object to talk through can be really advantageous. Then you've got the words, but you also have something visual to hang those words onto. So if you can remember seeing the blue mineral and seeing the aluminium, you might remember the story I was telling you about it. And then when it came to the fourth one, I demonstrated something. I not only had the object to show, I showed a change. And I think that often can be the most memorable. You can tell people information. You can paint a picture in their mind. You can show them a picture. You can demonstrate something. Although, if you really want to have something stick in people's mind, make it experiential. Bring them together, get them to explore, share, learn, discover on their own, and they might never forget it. But until then, use lots of visuals, conjure up images, and make sure you tell your facts surrounded by a story. I hope you liked that. If you did like it, let me know. Click like down below, leave me a comment, leave me a question. It'd be really nice to talk to you. Best of luck in your science storytelling. See you soon.